Good evening. There are fears tonight that the tornado squadrons based in this region will not survive another round of defence cuts.
A leaked report which details the options open to the government appears to favour axing the Tornadoes. Harriers and the Eurofighter would be used to meet our future needs. RAF Marham in Norfolk is home to 4 Tornado squadrons, supporting a workforce of nearly 4,000 people. The details from our chief reporter, Kim Riley.
RAF Marham is one of our busiest stations, with most of its eggs in the Tornado basket. The aircraft's been at the top of its game for 20 years, but the government's demanding savage cuts in defence spending. Today's leaked report, published in The Times, says grounding the 120-strong fleet to save £7.5 billion has become a serious option.
Currently in the overhead in the block 11 to 12,000 feet.
Over the past 10 months, all 4 squadrons from Marham have been deployed to Kandahar Air Base in Afghanistan. Some 130 aircrew and ground staff from 13 Squadron are there now. Their role, supporting ground troops, reconnaissance and countering the threat of IEDs, deadly roadside bombs. Today's revelations could hit morale.
It has the potential to have effect on the morale, but my team, both the service personnel, the civilian contractors and the civilians on the station, are well briefed to and versed in what goes on in terms of defence reviews. They know these sorts of things will actually be discussed and these sorts of things will happen. They will wait for guidance and briefings of what actually is going to happen in the future. But in the meantime, we've actually got a very vital and critical role in theatre to continue to support, and that's what we're going to do.
The base pumps millions of pounds into the local economy. It's the biggest single-site employer in the area. Around 4,000 jobs dependent on it.
I've been to RAF Marham recently, and clearly the Tornado force is very important in terms of the work in Afghanistan, for both surveillance and for shows of force supporting our armed forces. So I think it's something that should be carefully considered, and I'll be making representations into the Strategic Defence Review.
The future of 45 Harrier aircraft based at RAF Wittering in Cambridgeshire and with the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm is also being considered, but savings from scrapping them could be closer to £1 billion. The Ministry of Defence says the review is considering a range of far-reaching options, but no final decisions have been reached. It says speculation at this stage about the outcome is entirely unfounded. Kim Riley, BBC Look East, RAF Marham.
Now, as you may have heard, a coroner has blamed points failure for the train crash at Potters Bar 8 years ago. 7 people were killed and 70 were injured. The dead included Emma Knights from Cambridge. Today, her father welcomed the recommendations from the coroner. Mark Worthington was at the hearing in Letchworth.
The families of those who died at Potters Bar have waited 8 long years for a thorough investigation into what caused the crash. Several of those relatives came here today looking for reassurance that a crash like Potters Bar could never happen again. But after hearing the jury's verdict, a number of them echoed the coroner in expressing concerns that there were still a number of safety issues that needed to be addressed, and expressing their fears that a crash like Potters Bar could happen again. Among them was John Knights, who lost his daughter Emma in the Potters Bar rail crash. John Knights, who's from Lowestoft, said he feels that this inquest was too little too late, and he told us that he believes there's still much more that needs to be done.
It's been 8 long years, and I think the evidence has been such that we've noted that even today there are serious safety management flaws in the way that Network Rail conducts their business, and our sole aim of this inquiry was to prevent any other family going through the agony that we've been through for 8 years.
What the coroner actually said was that he believes that there continues to be a risk of death from some of the failures highlighted during the course of this inquest. He said that he will now be writing to the relevant authorities, urging them to take action. Network Rail, for their part, have insisted that the railways are safer now than they have ever been. They say that at the time of Potters Bar, railway maintenance was carried out by private contractors, but that now it has been brought back in-house. But they've also said that should the coroner make any firm recommendations that he feels are needed to improve safety, that they will act on them.
There's been more legal action today against couples who went through bogus marriage ceremonies. They did it to evade immigration rules. The latest prosecutions have been in Northampton. The judge said some weddings took place, even though some couples couldn't even speak the same language. Joel Mapp reports.
The going rate for a sham marriage in Northampton is £3,500. That's what French national Landry Tra was to be paid for walking down the aisle with Nigerian Moshood Samusi, an illegal immigrant and a man she barely knew. In February, the couple came here to St Michael's Church in Northampton to ask the vicar for a marriage licence. Samusi provided a false passport and a false address using a forged utility bill. 7 weeks later, the couple returned. But just moments before they exchanged their vows, the police swooped in and they were arrested.
It's not a victimless crime. It affects everybody within the UK who's legitimately here, because they're actually taking jobs and opening themselves up to be able to get the benefits that this country provides.
The couple are among 12 people jailed in recent months for sham marriages in Northampton, all married by the same vicar, the Reverend Michael Hills. He wouldn't be interviewed, but the diocese says all vicars have a legal obligation to marry anyone who can demonstrate a qualifying residential connection to their parish and do their best to check the authenticity of documents. Sentencing Judge Richard Bray said one only has to read the papers to see how prevalent sham marriages are. And referring to this case, he said one is European and one is African. They can't speak the same language and struggle to communicate. You'd have thought it wasn't too difficult to detect and report to the police. After serving 2.5 years in British jails, this sham couple will be deported. Their final moments together were in the dock. Joel Mapp, BBC Look East, Northampton.
Well, later in Look East, a sight to behold as the Ospreys get ready for a journey of 3,000 miles to the